Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at Zebra Technologies' Q3 2024 earnings call.
All right.
Now, this is a company I think a lot of people interact with every day without even knowing it.
Oh, absolutely.
They make a lot of the technology that really keeps businesses running, from the barcode scanners you see at the grocery store to the RFID tags that track your online orders. They even make those really rugged mobile computers that you see workers using in warehouses and out in the field.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere, really, when you start thinking about it.
They are.
Yeah.
So before we kind of jump into the weeds here, what was the overall vibe of this earnings call?
Well, on the surface, things are looking pretty good for Zebra. They actually beat expectations this quarter.
Oh, wow.
Sales were up a really strong 31% year over year. They hit almost $1.3 billion in revenue. And I think maybe even more importantly, their profitability saw a significant jump. Adjusted EBITDA, and for those who aren't familiar with the term, essentially it's their profit before we get into all the accountant specifics. It increased almost 10 percentage points to 21.4%.
So they're making money, but what's driving this growth? Did they mention any specific areas that were particularly strong?
They did. They called it a, broaden-in recovery across their major product categories.
Oh, right.
But one thing they did specifically highlight was that there was a surge in year-end spending from some of their larger retail and logistics customers, particularly in North America and Europe. So that seems to suggest that, those businesses are finally feeling confident enough to, loosen the purse strings a little bit, make investments in technology and the kinds of things that Zebra's offering.
That return to normal that they mentioned, does that mean that they think that we're past that volatility we saw during the pandemic, those wild supply chain swings?
Yeah.
Or is there still a sense of caution in their outlook?
That's a great question. And this is where things start to get a little bit more nuanced. They mentioned this return to a more normalized seasonality when it comes to sales volume, but they also did inject a note of caution. They said that visibility into large-scale projects for 2025, that's still limited. So it seems like companies are willing to spend on the essentials right now,
Right.
but they're still hesitant to commit to those really big, transformative, capital-intensive projects, the kinds of projects that really signal that longer-term confidence.
So maybe kind of proceed with cautious optimism is the feeling here.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about what Zebra had to say about those larger market trends and customer behavior. Earlier this year, it seemed like businesses were holding back, but now they're increasingly investing in technology like Zebra's. What do you think is driving this change?
Well, a few things stand out to me from the call. It seems like customers are moving beyond that initial reactive phase, where they were just trying to keep up with the demand and address all of those pandemic-induced supply chain disruptions. Now it seems like they're really actively seeking ways to make their operations more efficient, maybe gain a little bit of a competitive advantage.
It makes sense. It's like once you kind of stop the bleeding, you can really focus on, heal and get stronger.
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to think about it. And what's even more interesting is the kind of efficiency that businesses are looking for now. It's not just about cutting costs anymore. It's about optimizing workflows,
right,
improving their visibility, using data to make better decisions, smarter decisions in real time. And those are all areas where, Zebra's technology really shines.
And Zebra seems incredibly well positioned to really capitalize on all of this, especially considering that they've been consistently putting around 10% of their revenue back into research and development. Yeah. What are some of the innovations that they're highlighting? What's coming out of that R&D pipeline?
Well, one area that they're really emphasizing is AI and machine learning.
Okay.
And they're not just talking about it in this vague, futuristic sense.
Right.
They were actually showcasing new solutions with these advanced AI capabilities at some recent industry events.
Oh, wow.
Things like an updated workcloud software platform and a whole new line of these rugged tablets that are designed to withstand, even the toughest environments.
So they're not just making the hardware, they're building the brains behind it too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about crunching numbers in the back office. They're developing AI-powered tools that really empower frontline workers, giving them these real-time insights and recommendations that can really improve their productivity and their decision-making. I mean, just imagine a warehouse worker. They're using a Zebra tablet that has built-in AI.
Right.
That AI could suggest the most efficient pick and route through the warehouse, or maybe flag potential inventory issues before they become, major problems. That's the kind of impact that their innovations are aiming for.
It almost sounds like giving those on-the-ground employees a superpower, right? They're not just working harder, they're working smarter.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. They've got AI as their sidekick.
Yeah. And Zebra's not limiting themselves to just, improving those existing processes, right? They're also branching out into adjacent markets, leveraging their core software platform to offer all these new products and target, new customer bases.
Yeah.
They talked about introducing things like self-checkout kiosks, which is really a natural extension of their expertise in things like barcode scanning and, point of sale systems.
Yeah.
It's a pretty smart strategy.
It is.
It's almost like they're saying, hey, we're already here. We might as well offer you this too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it speaks to their understanding of where the market's heading. They're not content just maintaining their current position.
Yeah.
They're looking for ways to really expand their reach and, stay ahead of the curve.
Now, speaking of staying ahead of the curve, there was one thing in particular that caught my eye in these earnings call materials.
Yeah.
Their development of a generative AI solution for mobile computing. I mean, that sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? And it really could be a game changer. Imagine you've got your frontline worker, could be a sales associate, a field technician, a delivery driver. They have access to generative AI right there on their device. They could ask these really complex questions, get real-time assistance with all sorts of tasks.
Wow.
They could even have the AI generate reports or summaries for them in real time.
So it's not just about automating repetitive tasks anymore. It's about, augmenting human capabilities, allowing workers to do things that maybe were even previously impossible.
Exactly. And while this generative AI solution is still in its really early stages of development, just the fact that Zebra is investing in it really speaks volumes about their vision for the future.
So we're seeing a company exceeding expectations, businesses cautiously investing in efficiency and automation, and a strong focus on innovation, especially in AI.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag, but there's a lot of potential. What's the biggest takeaway for you from all of this?
I think Zebra's performance is a really interesting indicator of, the overall state of tech investment right now.
Right.
Particularly in those key sectors like retail, e-commerce, and healthcare. And we're seeing this, this clear desire from businesses for solutions that can help them improve efficiency, boost productivity, and really give them that competitive edge. Zebra's clearly one of the companies that is leading the charge. But that cautious approach to large deployments that we talked about, the fact that businesses are still a little hesitant to go all in on these, transformative projects.
Right.
Well, that tells me that we're not quite out of the woods yet. There's still a lot of uncertainty out there, and it's really impacting decision-making at the highest levels.
It's like they're dipping their toes in the water, but not quite ready to dive in head first. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Zebra's exceeding expectations. Businesses are cautiously investing in efficiency and automation. And there's this clear focus on innovation, especially when it comes to AI. We've also touched on some of those broader economic anxieties that might be holding companies back from making those, big bets on the future.
We have, and it raises some really important questions, What does all of this mean for investors? What should we be watching for in the coming months? How will all these trends play out as we head into 2025?
Exactly, and that's what we'll be digging into after the break. We'll take a closer look at some of those specific details from Zebra's earnings call. We'll analyze their strategic initiatives and explore what it all means for the broader technology and economic landscape. Stay with us. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we jump into some of those, bigger picture implications, I wanted to circle back to Zebra's specific performance and maybe unpack some of those numbers a little bit more. We know they beat expectations overall, but what about the kind of nitty-gritty? How did their different segments perform?
Yeah, let's dive into that. So their asset intelligence and tracking segment, that's the one that houses all their printing and RFID solutions.
Yeah.
That one saw a really respectable 25.8% growth.
That makes sense, given all the talk about, those ongoing supply chain complexities and the need for better tracking and visibility from factory to warehouse to doorstep.
Absolutely. Now, their enterprise visibility and mobility segment, that's where they house their mobile computing and data capture solutions.
Right.
That one actually experienced even stronger growth, clocking in at 33%.
Wow.
And I think that's a pretty strong indicator that, businesses are investing in the tools that are going to empower their frontline workers.
Okay, so it's not just about knowing where your stuff is. It's about giving those on-the-ground employees the tech they need to make smarter, faster decisions in real time.
Exactly. Think about it. It's about equipping your workforce to be more agile, more responsive, and to really take advantage of opportunities as they arise.
And what about their services and software side of things?
Yeah.
I know they've been really focusing on building out those recurring revenue streams.
They have. And those saw some growth as well, though it was a bit more modest, coming in at about 4%.
Okay, so not a massive jump, but still, any growth in recurring revenue is a good sign, right?
Yeah.
It suggests they're building a more, predictable and sustainable business model.
Absolutely. It's a sign of those sticky customer relationships where businesses aren't just buying a product one time.
Right.
They're signing up for ongoing services, software updates, the kind of support that keeps them coming back for more.
Now, I'm curious about that geographic breakdown. We know a lot of companies are seeing kind of uneven performance in different parts of the world. Did they share any regional highlights or lowlights?
They did. And it's actually a pretty positive story overall. They actually experienced double-digit sales growth across all regions, which is really impressive.
Wow. So this recovery isn't just limited to one region. It sounds like it's truly global.
That's right. They called out North America, up 22%, led by those strong sales in mobile computing and printing solutions. EMEA, that's Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, saw a whopping 47% increase, which was fueled by strength in Northern Europe. Asia Pacific climbed 24%, driven by momentum in Southeast Asia and India, and a stabilization in China.
Wow.
And then even Latin America posted a strong 42% jump with strong performance in Mexico and Brazil.
Okay, so across the board, they're seeing really strong demand.
Yeah.
But numbers aside, what about Zebra's kind of longer-term strategies? What stood out to you from this earnings call about how they're positioning themselves for future success?
Well, we've already touched on their investment in AI and machine learning. And that's certainly a core part of their strategy. They're not just dipping their toes in the water here. They're making significant investments in developing these AI-powered solutions that can really, truly transform how businesses operate.
Yeah, those updated workcloud software platforms and rugged tablets you mentioned earlier, those seem like great examples of that. Anything else that caught your eye?
Well, remember we talked about them branching out into those adjacent markets?
Right.
I think that expansion is a really smart move.
Right.
By leveraging their existing software platform and, their expertise in things like barcode scanning and RFID, they're able to offer these new products like those self-checkout kiosks. It allows them to tap into a whole new customer base without having to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
They're essentially saying, hey, we already have the tech, the expertise, and the trust of our customers. Let's see where else we can apply it.
Right. It's all about finding those synergistic opportunities where they can take what they're already good at and kind of apply it to new areas.
Exactly. And let's not forget about that generative AI solution for mobile computing. I mean, that's a bold bet, but if they can pull it off, it could completely revolutionize how frontline workers interact with data, solve problems, and make decisions.
It's like the next evolution of those superpowers we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's not just about assisting workers. It's about giving them a co-pilot, an AI partner that can help them navigate these increasingly complex situations.
That's a great analogy. Now, it is important to note that they're still in the very early stages of development with that generative AI solution, but even just talking about it publicly shows a real commitment to innovation.
So they're playing the long game here, not just chasing short-term gains. It sounds like they have a very clear vision for the future.
Absolutely. They're investing in the technologies that they believe are going to shape, the future of work and the future of business.
Now, all this talk about Zebra being a leader, it made me wonder, what about the competition? Did they mention anything about the competitive landscape and how they're differentiating themselves?
That's interesting. They didn't really highlight any major shifts in the competitive landscape. They seem very confident that they're maintaining their leadership position thanks to a few key factors. Strong customer relationships built on that trust and reliability, that deep expertise in those specific vertical markets, and then also that broad portfolio of solutions that can be tailored to meet, the very specific needs of different industries.
So basically, they're leveraging their size, their experience, and their really deep understanding of their customers to stay ahead of the pack.
Exactly. They're not just a tech company, they're a solutions provider. And I think that's a big differentiator in a world where businesses are looking for partners, not just vendors.
And that continued investment in research and development we talked about, that plays a role too, right?
Of course. Especially their focus on AI and RFID. Those are areas where they're really pushing the boundaries and setting themselves apart.
It sounds like they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But every company faces challenges, right?
Right.
What are some of the potential risks or headwinds they might encounter down the road?
Well, the biggest one, and we've kind of touched on this already, is that lingering economic uncertainty.
Right.
Those concerns around interest rates, inflation, the U.S. elections. It's creating a lot of anxiety for businesses, and it's making them really hesitant to commit to those large-scale, capital-intensive projects, the kinds of projects that can really, move the needle for a company like Zebra.
Right. So until that uncertainty clears, it's going to be hard for Zebra to fully capitalize on the demand that's clearly out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even if businesses want their solutions, they might hold off on those big deployments until the economic picture is a little bit clearer.
That's right. And of course, there's always the risk that, new competitors emerge or that existing competitors start innovating at a faster pace. The tech world moves so quickly, complacency is not an option.
Right.
Stay on top of your game.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Zebra's financial performance, their strategic initiatives, the competitive landscape, and even some potential risks. Is there anything else we should touch on before we kind of shift gears and talk about that bigger picture?
Well, there was one thing they mentioned that I think deserves a little bit more attention, and that's RFID technology.
Oh, yeah. RFID. We talked about it a bit earlier, but they seem particularly bullish on it, right? They see it as a much bigger opportunity than just tracking packages and managing inventory.
Exactly. They're seeing really strong growth in RFID across a number of industries, and they really believe that it has even greater potential beyond its current applications.
Right. We talked about those new use cases emerging in areas like, grocery stores, tracking fresh produce and other perishables to reduce waste and improve food safety. It really does sound like RFID is poised for, a major expansion, moving beyond just those industrial settings and into our everyday lives.
Absolutely. And Zebra is really well positioned to capitalize on that growth. They have this really broad portfolio of RFID solutions, from readers and printers to software and tags. They can essentially provide everything a business needs to implement RFID technology, no matter what industry they're in.
So for investors and really anyone following the tech sector, RFID is definitely something to keep an eye on. It has the potential to be, a really big deal.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've got Zebra exceeding expectations, investing heavily in innovation, particularly in AI and RFID, and navigating, cautiously optimistic business environment. They're firing on all cylinders, but they're also keeping a watchful eye on those macroeconomic trends and the potential challenges that could impact their growth trajectory.
That's a great summary.
But now, I want to pull back the lens a bit and talk about that bigger picture. What does Zebra's performance tell us about the broader technology and economic landscape? What can we learn from their story and apply to other companies and industries?
That's where things get really interesting, because Zebra's results, I think, offer us this window into how businesses across all these different sectors are making decisions in a world that's still really grappling with uncertainty and that rapid technological change.
Okay, so we're zooming out now, looking beyond just one company and using Zebra as a case study to understand those bigger trends that are at play.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is that Zebra's success, particularly in those areas like mobile computing and data capture solutions, it really underscores how essential real-time data and automation have become for businesses of all shapes and sizes.
It's like the pandemic, the supply chain disruptions, all of those challenges we've been through in recent years. They've really forced companies to rethink how they operate. And they've realized that just having data isn't enough. They need to be able to use it effectively, right?
Yeah, that's a great insight. It's about moving beyond just collecting data and into a world where businesses can really act on that data in real time, make those adjustments on the fly, respond to challenges and opportunities with a lot more agility.
And Zebra's providing the tools to do that, right? You're giving companies the ability to make their operations smarter, faster, and more responsive.
Exactly. But at the same time, we're seeing this cautious approach to those big investments, that hesitancy to commit to those large-scale projects that really signal confidence in the future.
Right, that tension between, the need to innovate and grow and then the fear of making the wrong move in such a volatile environment. That's a theme that we've been circling back to throughout this entire deep dive.
It is, and it really highlights the challenges that I think businesses are facing as they try to navigate a world that's changing at this increasingly rapid pace.
So to bring this all back to our listeners, what does this deep dive into Zebra tell us about the questions they should be asking as they analyze other companies and industries?
That's a great question. And I think there are a few key takeaways here. First, when you're looking at a company, consider whether they are truly embracing innovation and automation. Are they investing in technologies like AI and machine learning? Not just talking about it, but actually developing and deploying solutions that can transform how they operate.
Are they riding the wave of those mega trends we discussed?
Yeah.
E-commerce, omnichannel retail, the increase in demand for healthcare. Are they positioned to capitalize on those massive shifts that are really shaping the future of our economy?
Right. And I think perhaps most importantly, are they adapting to this new landscape of cautious optimism? Are they finding ways to balance the need for growth with the reality of, a still uncertain economic climate?
So it's not just about looking at a company's bottom line. It's about understanding their strategic vision, their ability to adapt and innovate, and whether they're aligned with those larger forces that are shaping the future. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
We've talked about Zebra's impressive performance, their focus on AI and RFID, their expansion into new markets, and those lingering economic anxieties that are causing some businesses to hesitate before making those big bets. But there's one last piece of the puzzle I want to explore. We've talked about Zebra's success, but what about the bigger implications of all of this? What can we learn from their experience and apply to our own understanding of the technology landscape, the economy, and the forces that are shaping the future of work? That's what we'll be discussing in our final segment. Stay with us. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Zebra Technologies.
And it's here where we really kind of shift our focus from, the specifics of one company to the larger ripples that their performance creates.
Right.
What does Zebra's success and, the cautious optimism that we're seeing from businesses overall, what does that tell us about those bigger currents shaping the business world right now?
Right. Because it's tempting to just look at those, impressive sales figures and say, hey, the economy's booming, tech is king.
Right.
But I think Zebra's story is actually a lot more nuanced than that.
I agree. There's a deeper narrative here, and it's one that every investor, business leader, really anyone trying to make sense of this, rapidly changing world should be paying attention to.
So let's connect the dots.
Yeah.
What are the broader themes that we can kind of extract from Zebra's earnings call that might help us understand not just their trajectory, but the trajectory of, the entire business landscape?
Well, the one that jumps out to me is the undeniable impact of technology.
Right.
And specifically the kind of technology that Zebra specializes in, real-time data, automation, the tools that empower those frontline workers. Their success, particularly in mobile computing and data capture solutions, it shows just how vital those capabilities have become for businesses across a range of sectors. I mean, from retail and logistics to healthcare and manufacturing.
It's like businesses have finally grasped that, it's not just about having the data. It's about using it effectively in the right place at the right moment. It's about making those, on the ground decisions that can really make or break a company's success.
Exactly. And Zebra's providing the tools to do that, those rugged tablets with the built-in AI, the RFID tags that can track anything, anywhere, the software platforms that connect the dots and give businesses that real-time view of their operations. They're not just selling products, they're selling a vision of a smarter, more efficient, more responsive future for business.
And yet, despite all this talk about transformation and the power of tech, there's still that cautious undercurrent that we talked about earlier, that reluctance to kind of go all in on those, big long-term investments. That tells me there's a second equally important theme we need to consider, that lingering uncertainty that's still kind of gripping the business world.
Absolutely. Even with all the positive signs that we're seeing, the strong earnings reports, the increase in investment in technology, that sense that certain sectors are really hitting their stride, there's still that element of wait and see. Businesses are hesitant to commit to those massive capital-intensive projects because there are just too many unknowns out there.
Right. We've talked about interest rates, inflation, the upcoming U.S. elections. those macroeconomic factors are creating a lot of anxiety and making companies think twice before they make those big bets on the future.
And it's not just about the economy either. There's also, that rapid pace of technological change itself. Think about it, just a few years ago, generative AI was barely a blip on the radar. And now Zebra's talking about putting it in the hands of frontline workers. Companies are having to adapt and evolve at, an unprecedented speed. And that can be, both exhilarating and terrifying.
It's like they're caught between, the excitement of all these new possibilities and the fear that they might make the wrong move, invest in the wrong technology, miss the next big wave. It's a tough spot to be in.
It is, and it highlights the importance of, not just understanding the technology itself, but the context in which it's being deployed, the challenges businesses are facing, the strategic decisions that they're grappling with.
So to bring this all back to our listeners, what does this deep dive into Zebra tell us about the questions they should be asking about other companies and industries? If you're using Zebra as this lens to kind of view the broader business world, what are the key things that we should be looking for?
That's a great question. And I think there are a few key takeaways here. First, when you're looking at a company, consider whether they are truly embracing innovation and automation. And I don't mean just, paying lip service to those buzzwords, but actually making significant investments in the technologies that are going to shape the future. AI, machine learning, the Internet of Things, all those tools that allow businesses to, operate smarter, faster, more efficiently.
Right. It's not enough to just talk about it. They need to be walking the walk.
Exactly.
And I think the second question, building on what you just said, is, are they invested in the right technologies? Because as Zebra's story shows, the tech landscape is changing so rapidly. It's not just about adopt the latest shiny object. It's about making strategic bets on the technologies that are going to have a lasting impact on their business, on their industry. And then the third question I would ask is, are they paying attention to those megatrends that we've been discussing? E-commerce, the shift to omnichannel retail, the digital transformation of healthcare, the increase in focus on sustainability. These are the forces that are reshaping entire industries. And the companies that are going to thrive are the ones that are not just riding the wave, but actually shaping it.
I agree.
And then finally, I think the most important question, and the one that Zebra's story really drives home, is, are they prepared for a future where technology isn't just a tool, but a fundamental part of how they operate? Because what we're seeing with companies like Zebra is that line between the physical and the digital is blurring. And the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that can operate seamlessly in both worlds.
I couldn't agree more. It's not just about adopt technology. It's about integrating it into the very fabric of their business, their culture, their DNA. It's about becoming a technology-driven organization, not just a company that uses technology.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Zebra Technologies, I think the takeaway here is that their success is more than just a good news story for one company. It's a reflection of, a larger transformation that's happening across the business world. We're seeing this shift towards, a more data-driven, automated, and connected future. And the companies that are embracing that future are the ones that are poised to thrive.
Exactly. Zebra's story is a reminder that we're living in a time of, unprecedented change and opportunity. The technologies that are emerging have the potential to reshape not just individual businesses, but, entire industries. And the companies that are able to harness that power will be the ones that define the future.
So for our listeners, the challenge is to not just, observe these trends, but to understand them, to analyze them, and to ask those tough questions about the companies they're following, the industries they're invested in, and, their own place in this rapidly evolving world.
Because the future belongs to those who are not just watching, but learning, adapting, and shaping the world around them.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Zebra Technologies. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a different company, a different industry, a different corner of the business world. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those questions coming.